Well, I'm sorry if I gave you the impression that with that intro that the show is far more professional than it turns out to be. Turns out it's not, but we're still here once again on a Monday night to review a couple of movies. As you can see here, we're missing someone on our panel here tonight. The great Rob Motto felt a little ill. That's his official reason for not being here tonight. I'm going to go with my made up reason is that he backed out of our duel over the film The Nice Guys tonight because he knew that was going to systematically destroy him and he wanted to save himself the embarrassment of having to show his face here and he'll never be seen the same in the bar room ever again. So that's what I'm going with. He says he's sick. We'll go with my things. It's a lot more interesting. But we do have our regular guest who is here, Mr. Rick Aragon. How you doing tonight, Rick?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
And joining us here on a very special occasion for a very special movie review is Mr. C.S. Johnson. How you doing tonight?
Yeah, hey, I honestly think Rob's reason for not coming in is so he didn't have to deal with me. So.
Oh yeah, that's probably it. You know, if it was Nerdigans, I probably believe that. But you, I think he kind of likes you, so that's fine. But yeah. So I mean, we're here tonight. We got a couple of movies that we're here to talk about. We should have another guest joining us here in just a little bit. We'll introduce her hopefully when she gets here later on. But obviously, the talk of the town yesterday. If you guys, I'm not sure if you guys watched it or didn't care at all. I didn't have much emotional backing into it, but yesterday was in fact the Super Bowl. You had the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, two franchise who I don't particularly care for one way or another. Bunch of people scored for a little bit, and then somehow the Chiefs won. So the Chiefs are the Super Bowl champions again. I think it's like their second title in 4 years. So I guess if you're a big Chiefs fan, that's hooray for you, I guess. But does anyone else watch the Super Bowl? Did anyone else care about the Super Bowl yesterday?
No.
I didn't care, but I still watched.
Now, it seems like for, some of what I like to call you filthy casuals, the only thing that you guys care about were the commercials and the halftime performance. I knew ahead of time the halftime show was going to be Rihanna, and Rihanna is someone who I haven't personally cared for, and I would say at least 14 years. I think it's somewhere around there. People like 2009 was like the last time I listened to like anything that Rihanna did, so didn't really care much for her. And then another thing I noticed with these Super Bowl commercials, which is just really annoying for me, is that Hollywood cannot write any good comedy like whatsoever. They're so worried about what's quote unquote offensive that they can't write actual jokes anymore. So all of these Super Bowl commercials, keep in mind they spend like $6 million on these 30-second ads for the Super Bowl, and every single quote unquote good commercial is a reference to something else that you've already seen. So it's like you guys saw the one with the girl from Clueless. They're making a reference to a movie from like 30 years ago, and that's supposed to be one of the quote unquote good commercials because it's like, oh yeah, I remember that thing. And that's what 80% of the commercials was. It was references to things from a much better time in our society. And that's supposed to make you go like, oh yeah, that was a good commercial. Did anyone else notice this too? Or was it just me?
It honestly might have been just you because I forgot about the Super Bowl completely, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch any of the commercials on YouTube. So I
I
don't know.
guess.
Rick, help me out.
Well, I remember. I think Jacob knew something because that was it. That moon, that beer commercial was it Blue Moon?
Yeah, Blue Moon. Yeah, yeah.
That one referenced those those beer commercials from the past. Specifically, I mean, I remember they had that tagline, "Great, tastes great, less filling." That was popular for a while.
Yeah. And then they ran that into the ground somewhere in like the mid 2000s.
Hmm. And I noticed that a lot of people are criticizing the some of the performers like Bradley Cooper and Adam Driver. Like, how could they demean themselves into doing commercials? I'm going.
Because they're getting paid lots of money.
Yeah, they need. Even big stars gotta eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's like I don't know. I was watching like a lot of those commercials now, and it's like, yeah, it felt like maybe 20 years ago that used to be one of the best parts of watching the Super Bowl. But now it's like, okay, I have to watch a Amy Schumer commercial about an iPhone. Like that's the best you guys have for me this time around.
Well, I never understood the idea that these commercials were that important. I mean, this came about because they had one commercial. Was it the Apple commercial where they were referencing, what was it, 1984?
Yeah.
And from that spun the idea that, oh, People love the commercials, and most people probably cannot remember some of the commercials from the past Super Bowls. There are
Yeah.
a few exceptions, like the Snickers one with Betty White. That one, yeah, that one was hilarious, and people still remember it. But by and large, I don't think many people remember the commercials. I never understood why people were so insistent. Oh, people watch the Super Bowl for the commercials. No, that's just as ridiculous as people watching that the show that premieres right after the Super Bowl is going to be, the big hit. That happened what once with the Wonder Years, and
Yeah.
that's the exception. Most shows that follows, most people don't watch. I- And the same with the halftime show. I still think I still would have liked to have seen the halftime show featuring Carol Channing, who I think did the first halftime show, like Super Bowl three, when it wasn't a big thing. But now it has to be this massive spectacle where everyone tries to out top the previous performers. I mean, I actually struggled to remember some of the performers from the past. I mean, at one point, I said, Coldplay played the half.
Coldplay, yeah.
I
You
was like,
remember that episode of Rocco's Modern Life where they're making the TV show and they just do 10 minutes of mayonnaise? I'm like, that's
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. I remember. Was
I
it
vote for
like
that.
Wacky Deli or something like that?
Yes, I vote for that for next halftime show.
Yeah, yeah.
Comedy
But
fest.
I don't know. I just watched last night's show from top to bottom, and I just thought to myself, it's like I think I've reached a point where I just generally don't care about anything associated with like this event anymore. Like, maybe it just has something to do with the fact that I didn't have a team that was in it, so I just wasn't emotionally invested in it whatsoever. But it's like I didn't care much about the game. It's like, okay, Patrick Mahomes won another Super Bowl. I guess that's great. Whatever. Didn't care about the commercials. Didn't care about what the overhyped pop stars they bring out every single year to do these over drawn out musical performances during the halftime show. So I was like, I didn't care about anything. I mean, it just I don't want to say that I've gotten to grumpy old man stage, but it's just like you guys have kind of taken all the fun out of this thing with me entirely to the point where it's like I just can't muster up enough care about this event anymore. I mean, you saw like beforehand they were doing the whole thing where now we're separating the national anthem, so we have to do the black national anthem on top of the regular national anthem until Hispanics, Asians get offended. Then we have to start doing national anthems for them. The pre-show festivities went on way too long. I think the both teams got on the field at one point, and somehow the game didn't actually start till like 40 minutes after they were already on the field. It's like, what the hell are we doing here?
well, I remember they had like the little intro with DJ Khaled, and I just kept asking, "Who's DJ Khaled?" I mean, I know who he is, but
Yeah.
all I know about DJ Khaled is that his job is just to scream his name whenever
We
he
the
gets
best. Woo.
DJ Khaled. That's all he does. I mean, that's
Yeah, like
literally all he
he's
does.
basically a meme for like 15 years ago that people still make relevant for some reason. It's like,
Oh, and
why
another
are you
one.
doing this?
And another one. I have to
Yeah,
admit that other meme. He has two memes. The one where congratulations, you just played yourself.
yeah.
I mean,
Like
I'll
I
give
say,
him.
he's basically a meme factory. That's why he's still relevant.
Yeah, I give him credit. He has a bullion personality, but really, I have constantly asked, what exactly does this man do other than scream out his name at every opportunity? Literally,
He
every
used to
time.
be a producer. I'm not sure if he's still a producer or not, but it's like, I
Yeah,
mean, I
I
guess
think
that's his claim
so.
to fame.
I think so, but it's like DJ Khaled, DJ Khaled. I mean, that's all I ever hear him do.
Hey, it was either that or The Rock. So I mean,
That's no comfort. And a lot of these musical performances, it's just a medley, just a medley of their songs. They don't really perform new songs.
yeah.
I mean, you had that with
They have to play their greatest hits. It's essentially a 15 minutes greatest hits concert by insert celebrity here.
mhm. And
Well, I will say the thing that stuck out to me was the fact that Rihanna's pregnant and everybody's like, "Oh, she's gonna have a baby," and I'm like, any other person, it would be a parasite. So
Yeah, exactly. Now it's a baby, but who knows? I mean, with Rihanna, it may be an Illuminati sacrifice too. So I mean, you can't go too far in one way on that one. So I guess we'll have to wait
maybe,
and see.
well,
you
maybe
think she'd
next
have
month.
lost her taste? she lost any taste for pulling people apart after Chris Brown.
Oh yeah,
So,
she's never gonna do that. Yeah, she'll advocate for abortion while she's pregnant. Yeah, that's the type of people that they have there.
Well,
Cool.
she could make her her pro-abortion statement when she picks up her Oscar next month.
yeah,
For
like
what?
Michelle Williams did.
For "Lift Me Up" from Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I had this argument at work where people like, "Oh yeah, this is a great song," and I'm going, "No, it's not." It's like, "Oh, Hold My Hand, that's terrible. Natu Natu, I don't understand it, so it can't be good because it's in a foreign language." I mean,
Yeah.
they could be Farsi. People were saying it could be Farsi for all you know. I mean, no, I'm
Well,
pretty sure it's
well,
not.
not only that, but think about speaking of Super Bowl stupidity. So I'm pretty sure you guys know by now the whole Hobby Lobby commercial fiasco that's been trending on Twitter all day. So the people behind Hobby Lobby thought that it would be a good idea to spend $6 million on a commercial that tries to, I guess, pander to the left by using the whole Black Lives Matter racial injustice imagery in order to say that Jesus gets us or something like that. So that's been trending all day long because on one hand, you have the people on the right who are like, I don't like the messaging of this whole supposed Christian campaign that you guys are trying to do here. Then you have the people on the left who hate Christianity to begin with. So when they see that, they're thinking that fascists are taking over the world because they have to sit through a 30-second commercial about Jesus, and now they don't know what to do because they're having like demonic reactions to it or something like that. I don't know who's. It just feels like everyone who's in the world of marketing right now are either just like straight up stupid, or they have no idea what they're doing. Because I could have told you that this would have been a terrible idea from the jump. Who thought that this would win people over one way or another? Like whose dumbass idea was this?
Yeah, it goes back to that idea. Who is your target audience?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I
your target audience are people who hate Christ. So why would you even try to do that in the first place?
well, maybe it's a tax write-off for Hobby Lobby. So
The most expensive tax write-off ever.
I don't know. Let's talk to Batgirl, shall we?
Yeah, that's true. Well, to be fair, that was a tax write-off for an entire media conglomerate. I don't know if Hobby Lobby fills that category, but
I have no objection to the commercials because again, I don't really pay much attention to them. I'm sure they meant well, but the people who are saying, "Oh, there's $6 million that could have been spent to permanently feed the homeless or shelter the homeless," I'm thinking, do you guys give that amount or whatever?
you guys don't even give $6 to the homeless, and you always complain about somebody else not spending their money to help people out. It's like, shut up.
Yep. Well, I mean, like for me, that's the first thing I usually ask if somebody's like, "Hey, what's the rich aren't paying their fair share," and I'm like, "Oh, how much are you paying?" So
Exactly right. Well, we do have someone else who's joining us here on our show right now, so you may have seen her a couple of times before. Let's introduce. I don't know, what should I call you? Should I call you Trap Queen? Should I call you Cinnabunny? Should I just call you by your first name? I mean, you have too many names going on right now.
No, I know. You can just call me Trappy. That's the name I put on the screen. So I guess that's what I'll be. You guys can call me.
All right, then. Well, our soft-spoken gangster Trappy, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty well. We were just talking about the nonsense of last night's Super Bowl. I'm not sure if you watched or cared or anything. You have any thoughts whatsoever regarding anything that happened last night?
I was gonna watch it, but the thing is that my family, we only have one TV with cable right now,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to watch it, so I didn't get a chance to. But because I don't
You
want
guys-
to go on those streaming websites and like risk getting a freaking virus or whatever. But
No,
so
you
what?
just shoot me over a DM. I'll send you the right links to go to so you can watch stuff virus free.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so I mean, we're just talking about the Hobby Lobby commercial thing. Just the game itself, I didn't really care for. So I was like, last night, it just felt to myself, I can almost just completely give up football at this point without like outside of maybe some football humor related content, which we'll get to later on in the show. But I don't know, it doesn't hit with me the same way that it did. And I feel that way now about the NBA and the NFL, which is kind of sad because you're talking to a guy who used to watch ESPN almost religiously back in the day, and now it's like I can barely stand watching sports, at least the American sports. So
No, I know. It definitely does not feel like it doesn't have like the same feel that it used to. On
Yeah.
top of all the the woke bullshit and everything like that, but it just doesn't have the same feel that it used to.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Let's go ahead and give a quick little shout out to our guys in the chat joining us right now. Duke Nukem, I'm just going to keep calling you Duke. I'm not going to call you Nuke just because I've already said it so many times. That's pretty much your name now. Johnson's in the chat. I know Cassie's in the chat here tonight. Alex versus Evil joining us here tonight. Doba Fett is also joining us. I'm going to get back to Alex's point real quick because I do want to mention that. Doba Fett also mentioned this last night, and we talked about this with Bounding. We may talk about it in more detail tomorrow, but I did see the Flash trailer, and all I have to say is that it's very interesting that Batman has been front-loaded in all the marketing for the Flash movie. That seems to be DC's strategy to avoid talking about Ezra Miller, but like I said, we'll hold off that discussion for tomorrow night. DK say he changed the channel the second that Rihanna joined in. If I could change the channel, I would, but I was at a party with a bunch of other people, and it's the type of people who are only there because Rihanna was performing at halftime. So there it is. Will Smith beating up DJ Khaled's character in Bad Boys has aged very well. Yes, it has. Certainly has. If you remember that movie.
It used to beat people up.
Cassie's, we'll talk about that too. Cassie's here with us tonight. She'll be joining us in and out of the chat. And then, yeah, Cassie remembers you, so you already have some fans going on in the chat. So there you go. Top Dog is also joining us here tonight to let us know that Eagle fans are certainly in the mud after last night. I mean, like, the fact that Philadelphia didn't win a title, that's pretty much my only saving grace of all of last night. And that's pretty much it. Now, before we go on to our first movie discussion on the night, I do want to talk about this one just real quick because I upset quite a few Harry Potter fans over the weekend. Because we were talking about, look, I've mentioned this many times on the show. I haven't watched a single Harry Potter movie. I haven't read a single Harry Potter book. But I know everything going on with Hogwarts Legacy right now. I know that there's a huge battle online about trans people being upset about the video game and all of that nonsense in between that. We talked about that last week on the Bar Room. But so I was asking people, who are consider themselves Harry Potter's fans. It's like, okay, explain this whole universe to me as if I'm stupid. All I know is that there's 4 houses in Harry Potter universe. Gryffindor, from what I understand, is the good guy house. Slytherin is the bad guy house. Ravenclaw is like your nerdy art student type house, and then Hufflepuff is basically like your borderline like autistic people, and that's pretty much my entire markup of the Harry Potter universe. Am I on the nose with that? Because apparently when I said that a couple of nights ago on our Saturday night stream, people got pretty upset with me because I was disgracing the name of Hufflepuff. But can you guys tell me any different?
I'm not an expert, but I would have thought Hufflepuff was more like the very gentle, quiet individuals, not necessarily autistic or anything like that.
Yeah.
And if Ravenclaw is for the nerds, why isn't Hermione there? Because she's the queen of the nerds.
Because like every house has like a specific virtue attached to it, and like Hufflepuff is like amity and like collaboration and kind of like one of those things where it's like we're all in this together.
So I definitely would not fit in that house whatsoever, is what you're saying, right?
No.
That's a great song from High School Musical, by the way. We're all in this together.
Well, I save those references just for you, Rick. So just like my Whataburger coupons.
Thank you.
Slytherin is more about ambition. I actually really like the idea of like good, ambitious people. So like I'd probably be like turned off by your comment saying
the only difference, the only problem is that most of the people who join there end up bad. Is that the smear on the house?
That's kind of like saying like lawyers and politicians are bad people. I mean, most of them are, sure.
They are.
There's always that there. I mean, this power attracts power, and megalomaniacs don't have a really good running record. So
yeah.
And then Gryffindor is about bravery. And I think, too, this is like, I expect more like stupid deaths. These are the people that strike me as the kind of people that would go up on mountaintops for selfies and then fall off.
Yeah, I definitely see that happening. Trappy, are you a fan of Harry Potter? Or do you know any of the lore whatsoever?
I was when I was younger. I did watch the movies and I read like the first couple books. I would say like when it comes to Hufflepuff, they're kind of just more of like the kind, nice, kind of common people. Like most people in this world, if they were in Hogwarts, would probably get sorted into being Hufflepuff. People think of them as being like the retards of the of the school, but really they're more of just like, he's a nice guy, type of thing.
They're the people that you probably want to marry. Let's put it like that.
I mean,
I
you
would
you
probably
tell me
be
you don't.
close to Hufflepuff, and nobody wants to marry me. So there you go.
Well,
No.
that's you got a whole other better problems going on there outside of that. So I mean, let's
Maybe
not
it's not
make that.
you. Maybe it's like your family or something.
That too. It could also be your not communist but totally socialist friend as well. Maybe that's her hurting you another day. But yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much all the backstory of everything that happened this weekend. Obviously, like I said, Rob's not here tonight because he's sick. I still might make him bully him into doing the new guys thing, but we will talk about that movie later on tonight. But I do want to start things off with our feature film of the night, which is Magic Mike's The Last Dance. So is this a movie that everyone has seen before we got here?
I saw it except for when I was playing Pokemon Go in the theater, so I didn't have to watch
I
all of it.
I was forced to watch this kicking and screaming.
Oh, stop it.
So humiliated that I walked into the theater with my cap as low as I could put it on and sunglasses.
Oh yeah, because God forbid all three people in the theater had noticed you.
Well, there were
There were
probably
three people in my theater. That was one of
there
them.
were, I think, maybe 4 people in the theater. And I went early. And what's worse is that I actually felt less embarrassed walking into Bros than I did into this.
No,
I saw
okay.
Bros too in the theater.
Yeah, I don't know why you would do that. I mean, we did it for the show and we were embarrassed. So.
I did it for the pretzel bites. So theater food is expensive, but when I go, I get theater food, man.
Only thing I get in the theater now is like some Starburst candy because that's the only thing that's like less than $5 now. And that it just feels like any kind of food. I mean, I can't do theater food anymore. It's like $13 for like the jankiest chicken nugget you've ever eaten in your entire life. Like, why would I ever do that to myself?
Oh, it's ridiculous. They have an option. I think it's at AMC now.
Yeah.
One of them where you can actually have like a waiter come and like give you serve you your food on a plate like in a dark theater.
Oh yeah, the forking screen type theaters.
Yeah, it's so awkward. Like imagine you're just trying to eat like a big sandwich like in the dark.
Yeah.
Those little tiny trays that they give you. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know like some of like the western states and maybe like in the northeast like where you are, that's kind of like a new thing. But here in the south, that's kind of been a thing for like a while. And we've been to like theaters where like you'll serve you like full entrees and like desserts and stuff like that while you're watching a movie. I mean, it's great when you have like the recliner chairs. I'm not sure if you have like those like there, but if you're sitting like those super hard like stiff chairs, can be pretty uncomfortable. Just put it that way.
Well, the
Yeah, that's
negative
when Jacob
aspect
and
of
I
that
stopped
is-
playing with husband. So
Yeah. What was it? The Plane, which is also getting a sequel, by the way. It's getting a sequel called Ship. So
I'm disappointed. I wanted Starship. So
Well, the one with the sequel is not going to feature Gerard Butler. It's going to feature
Michael Kotler, or AKA Luke Cage, is going to be focused on him. So
yes.
well, that would be the better plot line in all fairness. So I mean, that's how I would do it if I had a
Yep.
studio mandate it.
to be fair, because the first movie didn't really go into much about his background, so I'm pretty sure they'll explain his background and focus more on him. And then, if that movie is a success, they can always do a third movie where they bring those two guys back. So I mean, it works for what it is. At least they're not spending $200 million on it like a Disney film.
It would be him, or it would be his strong, independent female daughter. So okay.
Oh God, yeah, exactly. No, biracial daughter, which we will get to here in the course of talking about this movie here. But so let's rewind here a little bit before we actually talk about the film itself, because this was a story that I covered last year for Bounding in the Comics. This was right on the heels of the Will Smith Chris Rock thing. So as you all know, last year Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith. Will Smith got up in front of millions of people and smacked the shit out of Chris Rock and did the whole "don't keep your wife's name out of your fucking mouth" thing. So that obviously divided a lot of people, because people were clearly, who were on the side of like Chris Rock, were saying that you can't slap a comedian over a mild joke about your wife because she's bald. Like, what the fuck is that all about? But then you have like
instead, like civilized people.
You had normal civilized people, but then you had the not so normal civilized people who was all like, "Oh yeah, you should never make a joke about a woman's appearance." So yeah, I applaud Will Smith. Those people have been a little bit more silent over the last few months, if you've noticed too. But at the time, there were people defending Will Smith, saying that he was right for what he did and whatnot. And this happened. This whole argument happened to break up the original chemistry of this film, Magic Mike 3, because when they started filming this movie, which took place, I believe, like maybe a few weeks after that incident happened, Channing Tatum, who is the producer of this film, who has a lot of behind the scenes control over the movie, because he is taking a lot of roles here. He was initially supposed to do this film with Tawandi Newton, who I believe that's how you pronounce her name, but she was originally supposed to be Salma Hayek's role in the film. That was the direction that they were going to go as, and that's if you know that the stuff that happens later on in the film kind of makes a lot of sense. But what happened was that they got into a very, very heated argument about this one topic. People who reported about this said that I guess she called him either racist or insensitive or something along those lines, and Tatum just completely snapped, he completely lost it, stormed off of the set, and basically said, "I will not do this movie with this woman." And the next thing you know, she was gone from the project. Her PR team tried to come out and say, "Oh, it had nothing to do with the argument. It was about something else," which is BS, because they were literally on set for the film while this happened. And a couple of weeks after that whole thing blew up, Salma Hayek came to attach to this project, and she took the role, and they moved forward with the movie. Now, before we get into any of the details about the film itself, in my mind, getting Salma Hayek in this role versus what we could have had with Newton is a massive upgrade from what this film could have been. What do you guys think about Hayek being in this film over Newton? Do you think that the film would have been better or worse without her?
Well, I don't know who you're referring to, because the movie co-stars Salma Hayek Pinot.
Oh yeah, well that's another one we can talk about the fact that Salma Hayek is married to the guy who runs Balenciaga's parent company. When we heard about the Balenciaga story a few months ago, there's some very, very disturbing things going on behind the scenes with that company. But we'll save that for another show.
I don't have an opinion one way or the other, and I know that she has gone to a more formal pronunciation of her name. I still say Thandi, which was how I think she was originally known until we had all these racial reckoning movements.
Yeah,
that was her decision.
Yeah, way too many consonants in your name, bro. I don't know what you want me to say.
Her name, her decision. She can call herself anything she wishes. I think it would have made a little more sense, because I don't know the age difference, but I'm assuming that Newton and Tatum are closer in age than Madame Pinot and Tatum.
Well, Newton is, I think, 6 years younger than Hayek. And obviously Hayek, there's an age difference of 14 years between her and Channing Tatum. So I guess they technically would have been closer in age, even though Newton would have still been 8 years ahead of him. So
yes, and I think, isn't Thandi Newton or Thandiwe Newton British?
I think Thandi, because that's how
yes, she is.
So it would have made a bit more sense. They had to change. I'm assuming they had to change the plot to make her Maxima Mexican to explain why she's there. If Thandiwe Newton had stayed there, she would have kept her natural British accent, and it would have made a lot more sense for her to have lived in London.
Yeah.
But now with Madame Pinot, you kind of have to go. I believe the Mexican press loves referring to Salma Hayek as Madame Pinot. But Madame Pinot, you have to kind of give a long, drawn-out explanation as to why she's there.
So here's basically what happened. So Newton left the project, and because she left so abruptly, and they were already in essentially what the filming stage of production, They had to get a new actress. They ended up getting Selma Hayek weeks later. So at that point, they had to be like, look, we can either rewrite this entire script or at least, the finer details, because obviously there's a daughter who's in the film who's clearly biracial, black and white, but we can't have her just say that, oh yeah, she's Selma Hayek's daughter, because she looks and sounds absolutely nothing like Selma Hayek. Or we have to move locations, because we've already have all the permits set to shoot this film in London and get UK people attached to this film. So if we have to now reshoot this whole thing, this is going to blow up the budget. The production is going to take a lot longer. We're probably going to put more money into production, which, look, you're probably not going to get a huge return out of this film anyway. So they said, hey, look, you know what? We'll just bite the bullet. We'll rewrite a couple of instances saying that, oh, well, she's adopted, and oh, well, she's just the next wife of this British billionaire who we never see, and things of that nature. That way they can just try to not address the elephant in the room, which was, this was clearly a role meant for somebody else, but because that person walked off over absolutely stupid argument behind the scenes, it's like we have to kind of make chicken out of chicken shit, or some, whatever the saying is. But that's essentially what they ended up having to do here.
It kind of reminds me of what had happened with the original Transformers trilogy. Megan Fox, I think she got fired early.
Yeah,
I think she got prematurely fired, but they had already written the movie.
Yep.
So they just threw a random actress in there just to replace her, but it didn't make as much sense, because they were setting up for her to get her payoff, story arc wise, and you just throw this random chick in there. Mm-hmm. Doesn't really matter as much.
Yeah, exactly. They had to make up some excuse about, oh yeah, well, they broke up off screen in the last movie, so we're gonna focus on Shia LaBeouf and this blonde girl now, and then that'll be the movie going forward. Which great luck with that one. I mean, because they pretty much burned their bridge with the second Transformers movie anyway. So I guess by the third one, it didn't matter too much of the plot.
Well, didn't they do the same with the second Men in Black to explain, who was it, Linda Fiorentino, who was not in the sequel, because there's a movie end with her joining the Men in Black, and then, oh, well, you used the zapper on her, so there you go. That's why she's not there.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Megan Fox got fired because she had made some kind of comment about working for Michael Bay was working for Hitler or something like that, and then
fired her.
And then it was actually Steven Spielberg, who was the producer of the movie, who got offended at that. I think Michael Bay came out years later and said the comment really didn't bother him at all, but it was Steven Spielberg who got upset, and he couldn't really do anything about that after the fact. So.
Because they worked together again. She was in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that I think he directed. That was a few years afterwards.
Yep.
So I guess they'd since reconciled, or it didn't really bother him to begin with.
Yeah, it said it was something that bothered Spielberg far more than it bothered him. But
I always figured she just had a really nice apology.
Yeah. Oh, in breaking news, Megan Fox broke up with her vampiric boyfriend, Machine Gun Kelly, after he got electrocuted. And yeah, I mean,
really breaking.
The cringiest couple in the whole world.
It's God, those people. I don't know what to say.
That's the real Oscar we should have.
They just seem try hard to me. The entire time, it's they're not even authentic. They're just trying to be as controversial as they possibly can by doing the dumbest shit imaginable. That's what I feel about their entire relationship. So
well, it's Megan Fox was with Brian Greene for a long time. I imagine that after 3 kids and at least a 9-year marriage or whatever.
Yeah,
she was bound to go off the rails. She doesn't seem like she'd be a very. I mean,
she'll basically be Madonna in 20 years. So we all know how that where that train's going.
I imagine she had a very exciting life before she got married, and then to kind of give it up for kids and a husband, and kind of half a film career. Because I do remember a couple of years ago, she actually came out and said something about mothers that a lot of the right really liked, or something, that mothers don't get a lot of what is it? They don't get a lot of credit for what they do, and so I imagine that after all that and all the divorce and whatever, it just it was kind of I've held myself back for 10 years, so let me do every cringy, awful, terrible thing I can do in the next.
Yeah, I had some shred of credibility left, and now let me just blow it all off on Machine Gun Kelly and pretend I'm not going to regret that in 5 to 10 years. So,
well, there are such things as rebound regrets. So,
So the setup to this film, I was going back to Magic Mike now. So Magic Mike 3, Magic Mike's Last Dance. The setup to this film is that Channing Tatum's character, Michael Lane, the former male stripper, he lost his business during the COVID shutdowns. So now he's just like bartending for a catering company on the side. So he's like bartending these like millionaire house parties and whatnot. So he, I guess he's working at the home that Salma Hayek lives in. I guess one of the homes that either she owns or like her husband owns. I'm not sure if they ever made that really clear about whose property it truly is, because they're still like ongoing on the divorce. But she decides just randomly, just out of nowhere, to ask to speak with him to get a private dance for like $6,000. And initially he seems insulted by the offer that she would only offer him like $6,000 to do what he does. And it's like, do you even know like who I am and what I do? And he just decides, here, let me show you. So they turn down all the lights, and then the movie starts off with like what, a 5-minute striptease lap dance borderline sex scene, and that's how we start off this whole premise of the film. So Rick, I want to start off with you, because I'm pretty sure you were in the theater all uncomfortable with the two other people who are watching this movie. So what did you think of the opening scene and kind of the premise of this film?
I thought it was stupid. I mean, first off, you forgot to mention the voiceover narration.
Oh God! Yeah.
By the adopted daughter, whom we meet later. You forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
So again, I'm working on my review, and the first thing I said was, what could be more romantic than a 42-year-old dry humping a 56-year-old? Because that's what we were watching, and it just seems so strange that this woman who's going through some sort of crisis with her marriage, it's like, oh yes, I never met you, but the person that worked for me remembered you from 10 years ago, and you got a great lap dance out of her. So yeah, I'll give you $60,000 to do a lap dance for me.
No. He wanted 60.
Yeah,
she offered 6. Yeah.
And then I'll show you all my moves, and I'm sorry, I didn't think it was erotic at all. I thought it was awful.
Well, I'll give you a little insight into this one. The theater that I went into, there was a group of, let's just call them elderly women. I wouldn't call them elderly. That's probably being a little too mean. They seem to all be about Salma Hayek's age, even though they didn't look like Salma Hayek. But they seem to be enjoying themselves in the theater. Now, to be fair, they may have been the only ones, but this kind of plays into what we'll talk about here later, where it's kind of hard to kind of judge this film kind of objectively, because you have to understand that this film, with the 3 movies that have been established up to this point, it has a target audience that it's playing to, with a lot of stuff dialogue wise, with everything that's in the film. So obviously me and you are not exactly in that target demographic, so you have to keep that in mind as well. But we'll let the ladies here decide here. What did you think about the opening scene and the opening setup of the movie? I'll start off with Johnson.
Cringe. I just need a shirt that says that, I think. So I don't know. Speaking of like Megan Fox going off the rails, I was like, yeah, that's what every lonely divorcee would-be housewife wants, is some hot guy who's actually not as young as people think he is, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel
kept
like
in great shape, but he's not.
He's 42.
Yeah, he's going to be over 40 at this point, but he looks good.
Yeah.
I mean, he did look bad, but I mean, he's still like. I feel like if this was written 10 years ago, it would have made more sense, because especially with all like the boy band vibes I got towards the end, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I grew up in the era of the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and this would be like right on par with like Let's Go or Just Go With It from Adam Sandler. So like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
With all the boy band stuff and all the Spice Girls references in The Boys. I get that, but like this is yeah, the opening scene was like I was just sitting there and I was kind of laughing, because I'm like, I can't believe she kept her heels on.
I would say that I think it was Sarah last week who like made a comment about it. Was like as a post on like Twitter or something like that. People were taking pictures of people who were at the grocery store with like guns at their hip, and there was like, what do you think about this picture? And like Sarah was like the one who like noticed the shoes that the guy was wearing before she noticed the gun. I just said, you're such a woman. It's just like sad. That's the first thing that you notice.
Well, just for the record, You do know that Just Go With It is a remake, right?
Wait, it is?
Yes.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a remake of Walter Matthau Ingrid Bergman movie called Cactus Flower, and Goldie Hawn won Best Supporting Actress for it.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same plot. Only I guess
Oh.
they updated it.
Updated
the,
for modern audiences, I guess.
updated for modern audiences because that one
Great.
does not have Dave Matthews as the very unambiguously gay husband. Uh,
Well, I will
but
say, like, we didn't see the assistant that her ex was supposedly sleeping with, so maybe it's still kind of ambiguous.
yeah, but it was actually a pretty. The Cactus Flower is actually very funny. I recommend it because you get to see Ingrid Bergman as a cougar, which is so bizarre. But with Magic Mike, I mean this one here, this lap dance. I really, why doesn't she just get therapy? Why does she need to have a man just thrust himself on
Because
her, do all of these, not just a lap dance, but they have to do a little S&M with the bat with the blindfold, and he has to be
yeah,
swinging around at a certain point. And I'm thinking this is far too choreographed to be. I know it's not believable at any level, but it's far too choreographed to even suspend disbelief. And he's kind of a slut for even agreeing to this. I would have said, you know what?
well, I mean, with his history at this point, I think that just goes with the territory. I mean, let's be honest here.
True, true.
Yeah, I
true.
actually thought, like, when he did the 60,000 thing, I actually, and he was like disappointed that like it was like 6 or something. I was like, oh, see, he wanted that money for something. What did he want the money for?
Yeah,
So, and that's actually one of the pet peeves that I have with things is like they dropped something along the way, because like that's something that like he never talks about after he's like talking with his friends about he wanted the money to like pay them back for their investment into his failed
yeah.
furniture store. And like that's something that gets dropped halfway through it. I was
That's like I said, you have to keep in mind that, like I said, with Newton dropping out of this film, there was a lot of details in the story that just fell apart with her leaving, because they wrote a lot of this film with her in mind, that she was going to be the lead person in the film. So when she dropped out, they had to basically cut everything up and edit what they could. And there's a lot of little storyline details that don't make any sense because of that. We'll get to that here in a second. Shout out to Spencer, who's probably editing a whole bunch of articles right now and putting in the comments. And shout out to John Delarose, who's joining us here listening tonight as well.
Hi,
But Trappy, so what did you think of the kind of the opening of this film from a younger person's perspective?
Well, Magic Mike, I had seen, I think I'd seen the first one, probably not the second one. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's one of those movies like where you watch it and like those kinds of scenes, you just kind of can't help but laugh and just kind of be trying to hide that you're uncomfortable, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's just
Actually,
how women are, like, when it comes to, like, male strippers and stuff like that. Like, you have a male stripper at a bachelorette party, and the girls are like, ah!
Yeah.
The guys are kind of enjoying it, so it's just one of those things, I guess.
So obviously the theme of this entire film, in case you haven't figured it out at this point, is that this whole movie is about the female fantasy, right? Specifically the older female fantasy, not exactly, people my age or Trap Queen's age. We're talking about maybe 40-year-old women, maybe, 50-year-old women, somewhere around there, because like I said, the setup is that Selma Hayek is going through a nasty divorce. It's not that fact that he's exactly putting a lot of pressure on her, but I guess his mother doesn't like her for the obvious reason, so she's putting a lot of pressure on her, and she's so overwhelmed and unhappy and stuff like that she wants to essentially do a show at her husband's theater, which she technically is the owner of on paper, but she wants to do a show to stick it to him and his family. So the idea is that, hey, let's bring this male stripper to the UK and have him choreograph and produce a one night only play where they're going to do, I can't remember the exact name of the play that they were doing initially.
Isabella Ascending.
There we go. Thank you very much. But we're going to do a sexier version of that film, where there's going to be a lot of gyrating and stripping. And we're going to make this whole show about, what women want and the female fantasy. It's very feminist. That's the line that Salma Hayek kept repeating throughout the course of this movie. And it becomes abundantly clear at this point in the movie that this is all about her. The play itself is all about her. And this is her essentially like I don't want to say it's quite like a cuckold situation, but like she is watching like her man gyrate with other women under the impression that she's kind of like the avatar of this whole thing. So I'm not sure. Did you guys notice that as well? Where they were going with this whole film?
Well,
I
first
actually thought it was a parody.
Josh Earl said we all must repent.
I did. My husband was not happy when I told him when I was going to watch this, and I said, "I'm sorry. I will go home and pray."
Yeah,
I
I told him
wasn't
he could come too.
I wasn't happy.
No, no.
Well, I was thinking that they had to update the play for modern audience, and I'm willing to wager that they're going to do a Magic Mike's Last Dance live stage show, and that's basically what I ended up seeing.
Are they going to do Magic Mike on Ice? Is that going to be like the future of this whole thing now?
That could be, because there is such a thing as Magic Mike Live. I discovered this while researching.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's like a Vegas thing.
Yeah.
Well, like a Chippendale show, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah,
but,
similar to
but
that.
the thing is, it's curious from seeing the show, not Magic Mike Live, but just seeing Isabel descending. The girl escapes her cage or whatever it's called now.
Yeah.
It's just shirtless. I think they always keep their pants on, which okay, I don't care. But
Yeah, I mean, this film? It had to be at least R, right? Like, I don't think this was a PG-13 movie. Yeah, it was definitely R. Okay.
Yeah, yes, I guess yes, because a lot of it is talking about how she doesn't like this play, this kind of costume play, because
Yeah.
it has to
Because
be
it's too traditional and it's too boring, and they don't want to do the same old regular plays that they've been doing for how many years. Like that's
And
kind of like their recurring theme.
You can't always have, or how did they say it in the first part of it? It's like you want what you can't have.
Yeah.
And the actress doesn't like the character either. That's why she's thrilled to be able to play the liberated woman.
Yeah, let's just say that character certainly belongs to the streets, and we'll just leave it at that.
That was one of the reasons that I was like, okay, well, this movie's not woke, but it's still very liberal. So.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like it tries to toe that line, and I heard a few critics complain about this too, saying that it's fake feminist because it's too on the nose with its messaging. They said the line feminist way too many times, so it's like they kind of attack the film for not being subtle enough, so they could call it feminist in their own reviews, which is kind of weird that they would attack it like that if it's promoting the same shit anyway.
Well, you also remember that the daughter was saying that the reason Mike Lane was there was it because of systematic economic inequality. So
yeah, exactly.
That one, so.
Yeah, her and her rich ex quote unquote borderline stepmom is that's the argument to make there about wealth and inequality in a film of this nature, which is essentially about a rich woman playing out her divorce fantasy in front of a couple hundred people.
And I know the thing that I got from it is that this is a gender swapped Pretty Woman, because basically Madame Pinot takes the stripper off the streets, whisks him away, and just converts him into, I guess, a more sophisticated person. And then I guess they fall in love.
I mean, I can see it like that, but you have to understand this is like the third movie in this franchise. It's not like this is the first time we've ever seen this character either. You know what I mean?
I haven't seen the first two movies.
Yeah,
so
I haven't seen the first.
Me neither. So
I thought it was kind of like a parody because Salma Hayek's Pinot, I can't say it. Pinot.
Yeah.
Pinot.
No.
I'm a white person.
The husband to the child trafficker guy, that guy.
Yeah. I actually thought she stepped into the movie because they needed a distraction from the scandal. So worked out. But no, she I actually thought this was a parody of a feminist movie on some level because she does not she does not know what she wants. She doesn't know what she needs. She's kind of throwing everything at this project and almost she can't help herself on some level. and she's playing into that very womanly trope of, oh, the crazy lady. The crazy
Yeah.
lady's gone off the rails. And she's old too, so like she can't really say anything about the divorce. I mean, other than being shamefaced for staying with her husband if she wants his money.
Well, it's kind of funny because at one part during the film, she's yelling at him for not giving her exactly what she wants with this play, and all I'm thinking of in my mind is like, okay, this is the part where you go like, okay, well, this is why you got divorced in the first place. This is why you're no longer married. But of course, that's a little too on the nose. Now it would affect the whole like female fantasy storyline trope that they're going here with this film. So they couldn't exactly say what they probably should have said, what everyone was thinking.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I am with like a lot of people buy into feminism as an excuse
Yeah.
for stuff like this. Is like I've said before, like one of my favorite like, oh, I thought of this on the spot and I'm so brilliant moments was saying like feminism is like Tylenol. If you have like any pain from like men in the past, a little bit will help you through it, but too much will kill you, and that's just so true. Like you can honestly see the death of women if you overdose on feminism.
Yeah. And real quick before I go to Trappy here, I noticed that a couple of people that wrote this article as well, they were all saying that, oh, isn't this a big moment that, Channing Tatum is dating, in the film, in the context of the film, he's dating a woman who's like 15 years older than him. And that's something that we don't see in Hollywood films anymore. So they were trying to like celebrate that. And it's like, oh, it's the older woman who's getting the younger man. And that's great. Like this is literally on the same day that they were like barking at Leonardo DiCaprio because he's dating another 20-year-old, someone who's like 30 years like younger than him. But it's like, okay, you can't say, oh, he's the problem here because he keeps dating these models and not marrying them, and then you guys being like, oh, well, what Salma Hayek does is great. It's like, what are you guys doing here?
That's
Well, I think
interesting.
it's
Go ahead. Oh no, I was just gonna say real quick that Cactus Flower has Ingrid Bergman as the older woman, and that has a funny line where she's not really seducing the Goldie Hawn's boyfriend or neighbor.
Yeah.
But the plot makes it look like it is, and then he just says, "Oh, okay, I don't know who's honking." Says, he tells her, "Why don't we just run off together and live off your Social Security?" These were making fun of the age difference. Here, they're trying to play it as, oh, she's an empowered woman who's going to take full control, and she's taking full control. But she complains that, oh, you don't know, you're not directing, you're not taking charge. It's like, well, you don't want him to take charge because you keep telling him what to do. You're in charge of casting, you're in charge of everything. So what's he going to do? Just stand there and just say, "Sup?" I mean, that's it. That's all. This whole shtick.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, with that like whole angle to it as well, is like one of the things that I've noticed here is that you're trying to play like this kind of empowered woman angle, but she only has the power that she does because she's using her ex-husband's money to kind of front the bill. Like that's really like the whole setup like to this film. Is that like well, she has like this super successful business that she's been running and stuff like that. It's like, let's be honest, you really only have the money and power that you do because you are married to this more powerful guy, and then that's pretty much going away for you. So you kind of have then like this midlife crisis of, well, if I get divorced and it's finalized and all this stuff gets taken away from me, what do I have now outside of like this one night? So
I will say one of the better parts of the writing, and I say that like very tepidly, okay, was that they talked about her being the queen of the first act, and I actually thought that was a very good kind of like running hook through the story because trophy wives, and I speak as one, we have to have purpose. We have to have some kind of project. Like women need to be preoccupied, okay? And when you're not invested in your family, especially, okay, like she's obviously divorced. I mean, like, and she's got a child. It is actually very complicated. I actually was like, maybe she actually will go back to the husband in the end because of the daughter. That would be interesting, but like this idea that she kept hopping from like charities to new best friends to new clothes to the fashion line or whatever is at the store that she was at. I mean, like I can actually, I know people who are like that. I know people who need projects. I just write new books, frankly. So never been off the rails myself like that.
Yeah. Trappy, let me ask you a question. Obviously, we're talking about a movie here that kind of appeals to like the older, kind of more jaded female demographic here. But what would be like? Is there anything about kind of this series that kind of appeals to you? Like, what is your general problems either with the setup of this film or kind of setup of this whole series here?
So, like I said, I think I had watched the first one like many years ago. I kind of just enjoyed it for what it was. I watched it when I was a kid, so it wasn't really anything like that. Second
Yeah.
one, I don't think I had seen it. This one, so my issue with this one is more so like it's a very like, how do I describe it? Like I feel like the first movie was very fun and kind of like, just like a fun movie to watch, funny and all that, but like this didn't really have the same like sense of joy, I guess. And when it comes to like the role of like the female and stuff like that, I mean, for some reason all movies nowadays they have to have some kind of messaging in it like that, even if it's not like overt. And I kind of feel like it was just kind of shoehorned in there.
Mm-hmm.
And really you could have just had like just it be the funny movie, you know what I mean? They kind of had to like drag that down with it, and I didn't like that.
Yeah, it's weird, like looking at the kind of the love angle dynamic of this film too, because you think to yourself, okay, I can see why she would pursue him, right? Because he's like I said, a younger guy who's still good looking and stuff like that. And it's kind of like a physical attraction with her. Like she was completely smitten by like the lap dance, but it's like I never really got what was his connection like to her, because throughout most of the film, like she's pretty much just irritating the crap out of him to a lot of point where it's like he's like debating where it's even worth putting up with the stuff that he's doing right now. So it's like you're not even doing a good enough job of trying to like make that connection with why he would want her outside of, like you said, the whole thing is, oh, this is all fantasy, it's not devoid in reality, so it's all about what she wants. And you can hear him like the course of like the film, he's more concerned about what the woman feels throughout the play when they're setting up like a lot of the scenes and practicing like a lot of the scenes. So I feel like everything about this movie comes from kind of like a one-sided dynamic, which I mean, hey, you can't really blame anyone but Channing Tatum for that. But like I said, he is the director. He's I mean, not the director, but the producer. And I'm pretty sure he had a hand in getting like the writer and director together, because this is a group that worked on plenty of films over the last few years. They've done all the Magic Mike films. I think they did the Logan Lucky film as well, if I'm not mistaken. They were in that, and then they also did the movie Dog, which I mentioned last week on the show. So I mean, they've done plenty of films together, but it just seems like they were either trying to, I don't know, connect more with like their female audience with this movie to the point where the storytelling just took a lap, or like I said, because of things that were going on behind the scenes, they were just trying to paste together what they possibly could and salvage this whole project. What was kind of your take on the romantic side of the angle here of this film?
Well, he was a kept man, basically. And
Yeah,
I mean, the reason he was there was because he really had nothing in Miami. He kept saying, "Oh, I have a life here, and I have, I have my friends." I'm going, "You have nothing. You lost
yeah,
your business, and you're bartending, and you're not even taking the $6,000 to like dry hump Madame Pinot.
yeah,
So, yeah, what else have you got to do?" And of course, the primary reason is because something will happen if the plot requires it to. So it
yeah,
required him to go to London, and for a man who I'm assuming staged a couple of stripper shows. I think that was the plot of the second Magic Mike. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna hand over. Yeah, I will gladly accept directing a stage show. Even though I have absolutely no experience, I know nothing about producing. I know nothing about anything, but yeah, I will totally just accept this part because I'm, I guess, now madly in love with this woman, and I care for her, and I care for her child, and I mean, really, all I could think of is he had nothing else to do. That's why he did it, because he literally
yeah.
had nothing else
Let's
to
be
do.
very clear here. If you can just tomorrow just up and leave your city or state or country for an entire month and come back and virtually nothing has changed in your life, you pretty much don't have that much going for you to begin with. So
I will say, like, I can kind of buy that though, because he said like she believes in me. And I mean, like, after all his, I know that sounds dumb, but everybody wants a second chance. Everybody wants a second chance to be a better person, a better version of themselves, a more successful, better looking, richer version of themselves.
Yeah.
And I mean, actually, since he said to like the girl Zadie said like, "Oh, your mom's specifically paying me not to screw around with her."
Yeah.
I actually saw that as like a point of honor in his favor, and that he wasn't about the money. I actually laughed at the end when like she said, "I'm broke and divorced," and I was like, "Yes, yes, thank you, some realism." He left her, and then he came back, and I'm like, oh, "Okay, never mind."
Yeah, you weren't gonna get that for too long. And then that's the same. I kind of mentioned the daughter character too. She's one of those like typical, like it seems like Hollywood always does this with like young teenage girls where it's like she's bitchy, she's too self-aware to be like kind of like a 15, 16-year-old girl that they're trying to portray her as in the film. But then of course you have to look at the fact that she looks nothing like Selma Hayek whatsoever. Like I said, they try to like I guess try to make excuses for her lack of appearance to her supposed mother in the film as well. But it's like it was clearly this is supposed to be like another character. Do you think that, I don't know, what did you think of, I guess, her role in this film? Do you think they were better off kind of just like recasting the role
They should
entirely?
have cut the character altogether, really, because she's supposed to be the narrator. She's supposed to be the person filling us in on their thoughts and their motivations. And I'm going, why? You're an annoying girl. Then she has to be. She's insufferable when she's talking about, oh, systemic economic inequality, and
That's like a
oh
Zoomer thing.
yeah, and going on. Oh, you missed our appointment. Oh, you're a bad mother because you missed our appointment. You must hate me.
Yeah.
And oh, what do you do? I'm trying to do Chinese name. What are you doing? Oh, I'm writing a novel. It's like I'm going. Oh, come on. This is absurd.
I
But yet,
started writing when I was younger than her, so
yeah, yeah. But and then of course they take her, and then they constantly have to cover her eyes during the strip show. I'm going. There's really nothing there that the kids at TikTok are probably more explicit about.
I
So,
appreciated that as a mom. I appreciated that though. Okay. And
oh,
I will
but
say, to speak to Jacob's point, like they have to make her older and more mature and self-aware. You don't want a like like a One Direction groupie type of person hanging around Channing Tatum's character after he's done very explicitly rated R
Yeah.
stuff. Okay, you have to make her seem older than, but like not too old, obviously, because then she'd be competition.
Yeah, because that leads to other problems down the line. Yes.
So you have an inappropriate realm of
well,
of age grouping that you could put her in.
how
So
old
they
is she
actually
supposed to be?
did that right. I think she was supposed to be like 15. So
You can make her like maybe 18, 19. It wouldn't be. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the actress may be like 15, 16, so I think that's what they tried to portray her as. I'm not sure if she was supposed to be younger than that, but yeah.
Why even take her to the show? If they're going to start doing
But
that, they have to take her out. No,
Well, like,
Because they have to inspire her femininity as well, but only to the point where you can't see anything that was too explicit, because that way you have to like.
So Selma Hayek's character needed her approval. Okay, I know that sounds weird, but like every mother
Yeah.
whose marriage is falling apart, that's what they want. They want their children's approval. This is like, so this is like a project, and it was a big project, and she didn't know what she was doing. And just, yeah, I just want to be a good mom. And again, and this is what you do. It's like no. So in many ways, she was trying to get her daughter's approval, and
So,
you get that by including them. But you
so
also censor them because you're a mom. So
the way to get your very obnoxious daughter's approval is to bring a perfect stranger into your house, whose only qualifications is that he has I guess a pleasing body to some people. Because
see,
I
she
don't
did that without thinking of her daughter. She did that thinking of herself, and then she
Yeah.
was like, get her daughter's approval to justify it. Okay, so it's not like a primary concern there.
That was one thing I was thinking about too. It was like when the one part with like one of the three scenes where you actually like see the husband in question in this entire movie is one where he like shows up and it's like his daughter is in like the kitchen with like this stranger who he's never met in his entire life. And I don't think that he took Rose enough of a stink about the fact that it's like you got this random guy in my house talking to my daughter. Like what the hell is that all about though? But I think that probably would have been a little too much realism to a story like this. So I don't think they really went far enough as they should have with that one.
Yeah, well, his whole element to it was kind of vague. I mean, you could have killed him off, and there'd be some secret heir that she was fighting the will with, or something, and have pretty much the same plotline. So,
No, because if you kill him off, I mean, she wouldn't. I mean, the divorce wasn't final, so she would have inherited everything.
no, I'm saying like if the husband was like had a secret heir, like with another, like the assistant had a baby with him or something, she had to fight for the money, and the
But
mother
she,
was
but
getting into.
no, but the illegitimate child, I think, still would not have had legal rights because he was not recognized.
Well, I don't know. That's a matter of British law, I guess. So,
Well,
anyway,
I tell you one thing about this film. I think Johnson might have mentioned this one before as well. It's like it's very clear watching this movie that Selma Hayek is essentially a self-insert. Like in the story context, it's like she's self-inserting herself into like the movie because the whole play and everything kind of just revolves around her. But even Selma Hayek as a character herself is like self-insert for like I said, middle-aged women who are, I guess, dealing with the fallout of scorned relationships, whether her husband just decided to leave her one day or they're just going through like a bad divorce. So it's almost like a self-aware self-insert or a self-insert inside of a self-insert as far as that
I know, and that's like the tragedy of it all because this is like a male version of a self-insert of a self-insert.
Yeah.
Because like the whole like thing about like the women with the nose ring getting up and being like, sometimes I want this and sometimes I want that, and I'm like, men are not like they're not like ice cream sandwiches, okay?
Yeah.
And it's like you don't actually want this. You want a man who will be your hero, who will love you, who will accept you, and who will make you a better person.
No, at this point, the woman wants nothing but pleasure, physical primarily. I mean, I'll say this about Salma Hayek in terms. This
I
is
guess. Right?
an absolutely terrible performance. I mean,
Oh, her acting was terrible.
I
I
I
think
know
everybody's acting kind of terrible.
everyone's terrible, but
To,
Channing
to be
Tatum
fair,
has
let's be
never been able to
fair.
act.
Just real quick, let's be fair. Selma Hayek is basically acting as a temp in this movie. She's not acting like a true actor. Like this whole movie was never supposed to involve her in the first place, so she's doing the best she can with the
Oh,
situation at hand.
that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Well,
There
I
was
mean, like
not
her
one time when
costumes
she
were
actually.
nice.
I'm sorry.
Her costumes were very nice. I imagine she had a say in that.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
great wardrobe. But the thing is, like, I think I like. Well, I won't say that Salma Hayek has had a splendorous career. I didn't think her best role was Frida. I think it's because it was really close to her heart, and she could identify with the character, and this other Mexican icon. But every line reading, just from the beginning, was awful, forced, unbelievable. There was no sense that this was a performance. She was barely reading lines, and worse than this. And I can get away with it because I am of Mexican descent. This is the thickest her accent has ever been in any film that I have heard her in. There were times when I literally did not understand what she was saying. At one point, I wasn't sure if she was saying
Isn't
it's
that like every Selma Hayek film though?
no, I understood her very clearly in Frida. I just did not understand anything that this woman was saying. I was like, I wish we could have subtitles. And again, I'm not bashing her specifically. I'm not trying to be funny or difficult. I just did not. At one point, I didn't understand. I didn't know if she said if something was like the wettest or the wildest of something. And either way, the definition just sounds bizarre. Like it was the wettest or the wildest. This is everything. Every time she spoke, I was like confused. But leaving aside her accent, this performance was really bad. It was forced, unbelievable, unnatural. And I mean, I could say the same for Channing Tatum, but Channing Tatum can't act. I've never understood the appeal of Channing Tatum. I mean, this is a man. I mean, for me personally, and I'm not the target audience. I've always thought he's had very squinty eyes, kind of a perpetually confused look on his face, and yeah, I guess a pleasant body, but nothing that would excite me if I were a gay man. I mean, I didn't want to bring Derek. my friend to go see it with me. Maybe he would have enjoyed it more than I did. But again, there was not a performance. The only performance I liked was Victor, the valet. I kept thinking, why can't we see a movie from his perspective as he
I actually
sees
really
this?
liked his character.
Yeah, this completely this completely whacked out woman, and the boy toy that she brings, and the insufferable adopted daughter, that he has to endure all of these people for because of that systemic economic inequality. I would have rather have seen the movie from his perspective than from anyone else's, as he has to tolerate and survive this trio of insufferable and idiotic people. That's just my view.
Trappy, let me ask you a question. Obviously, the big selling point to a movie like this is not its story, believe it or not, but kind of like the dancing and the choreography, and it's kind of its draw and appeal to women. What did you think of kind of those aspects of the movie throughout the course? Did those hit with you, or do you have any issues with those?
I mean, I always thought he was like a really, really like attractive guy, like not just his body, but his face and everything like that. But
Mhm.
like one issue I had was like they didn't really like focus on that as much. Like it was all about like this romance between him and Salma, and it was like it kind of felt like it wasn't that interesting to me in that regard.
Yeah. Did you feel like they kind of just made him like the secondary character or like his own movie, even though this, like I said, this is the third movie of a trilogy here, but he kind of like he just took a backseat to Selma Hayek's character in his own film here.
Yeah, you could definitely say that. Like I feel like it was just like kind of a weak like romance plot that they just want to throw in there that wasn't really like it could have been a better like a more interesting movie without it.
I will say it probably would have
Go
been
ahead.
more interesting, but it'd be harder to market.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair enough. I can definitely see that. But I mean, you're already thinking like a rated R, like kind of male stripper movie. And then let me ask you this one, Trappy, because obviously you saw like at least the first one before this one. Was this one kind of seemed like, as far as like the more like raunchier aspects of the movie, was dialed back in comparison to like the previous films? Did that feel like the same to you?
I do feel that way, yeah, from what I can remember. I kind of felt like this was a lot more like it just kind of felt like it was like not like a good like finale. It was just kind of like a little wave that just kind of went in. It wasn't,
Yep.
like a big, splash like everyone thinks it would be with like a the final movie in a trilogy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of bad finales, let's talk about the ending to this film. For some reason, they put in like this whole story arc about, oh well, the husband's mother is gonna shut down this play because she's found out like what they're trying to do, and if they do this performance, then she's gonna lose like everything. And they try to like put some stakes towards the end of the movie, but then they just up and decided, yeah, you know what, we're just gonna do it anyway, so screw it. So it's like I don't even know like what was even the point of doing that if that was exactly what you were gonna do towards the end of this film. But we get to this point here with the ending, and like I said, they go through the entire, I guess you could say, abridged version of this performance, where it's like we're gonna start off doing the normal production, and then we're gonna switch it to kind of like this fantasy thing, and then the next thing you know, it's almost as like the lead actress is basically like DJing like a strip club essentially, or MC in a strip club, and you just kind of get to this ending where it kind of ends on a very flat note because like the show's over, and then it's like him and Selma kind of embrace, and it's like immediately like roll credits. So it's like there was no kind of like after scene about like what happened after this night. It was just like, nope, we're just gonna go straight to the end of the movie, and then it's over. What did you think of the ending to this film? I'll start with Rick.
Well, you forgot to mention real quick. They did try to throw in some like dramatic moments for the play to or the performance to go. That's
Yeah.
why you needed probably the one part that I actually enjoyed when they were going to all the strippers were going to seduce Edna, the kind of dour bureaucrat, by doing a weird dance
Yeah.
in the bus, which is like, oh well, the choreography is actually pretty good. But when I saw the number, I thought first, it's interesting that the strippers are so unimportant. I guess unimportant that I don't know if they. I'm assuming they had names, but we never heard them. We never heard anything from them. They were just bodies that moved. I was really impressed that nobody slipped and fell during that big water performance, that homage to Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
It's like if I had tried that, I would have just fallen through the stage and just crashed onto the audience members. And it's like And all this is interesting. That all the protests that that Mike was saying, I'm not going to dance. I'm not going to dance, and he does. He dances. He dances at the very end.
It's
But
almost like he realized no one can do this scene but me.
yes, and I'm recreating the love story. That's why Salma's like, oh, 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 look, they're reenacting our love story. I guess that's what it was trying to do,
A
but it ends
grand
with a big
gesture.
yes, it ends with a big musical number. And the interesting thing about the actress who was supposed to be Isabel, and then she
Hmm.
just ends up with a nose ring, and she's like this hostess. It made
Street
me
trash.
yeah, it made me think of the Magic Mike live show. I saw a little clip of it on the YouTube, and that they have a female hostess who's I guess, kind of like telling the stories or introducing the next performances. It's like that's why
Yeah.
I keep thinking that Magic Mike's Last Dance is going to find new life in like a Vegas show, because it's all they're going to do. The ending. It was nothing. It was just there to kind of try to wrap up the story and have Madame Pinot and Channing Tatum, get together because the plot required it to. But it would have been better if she had said, what I found is that I'm happy without having a man here. I don't need some two-bit toy boy from Florida
Yeah.
to make me happy. I find happiness within myself. I find happiness with my daughter. I find happiness in trying to start a business here and expand the show or do this that, and the other. So I was unimpressed, except for the fact that finally we're getting to the end of this, and hopefully I'll never have to see Channing Tatum take his clothes off again. Um, I,
I
I, I
actually thought it was appropriate that it was called Magic Mike's Last Dance, and I'm like, yep, here he goes to the nursing home now.
well, I wouldn't put it. Well, I mean, he's only 42, so but just
If he's gonna follow all the milfs and the gilfs.
but
I
this is
can't wait for Magic Mike 5 to come out in 15 years.
But is it? Yeah, but again, you know what? If he tries to do this, he's definitely going to slip with all that water on the
Hmm.
stage. And I kept thinking, wouldn't that water fall on the audience members as well? Like when it bounces off the.
Like when they have to like clean off the entire stage, like when that take like a while to clean
Yes,
all that up.
I get lost in these little details.
Yeah.
But
By the way, that's another thing we kind of forgot to talk about. Though I think we kind of mentioned it, but we didn't really go into detail about like how all of Tatum's former stripper friends are like all on like a Zoom call or something like that, and they're talking about their business. And that's one little plot point that goes absolutely nowhere. By the way, but you notice that Kevin Nash was in this film, and then like he didn't like bother to like try to like dress up at all, because for like the previous films he's like dyed his hair. He had like longer hair back then at the time as well, but now he just looks like just an old 63-year-old man sitting in a car with like this all white short hair. It was clearly got to a point where it's like, look, I'm not doing any makeup or dye job for this film, so let me just sit in my car and record my piece for the movie, and then just give me my check. So
that was so cheap. That was so cheap to get them there. They weren't necessary, and I guess they were just thrown in there to kind of show that, oh, here they are. But for those of us who have not seen the movie, I'm puzzled as to why, for example, Matt Bomer's character is supposed to be kind of a spaced out astrology person, and all these other was it Joe Manganiello? What was he there with the dog? I didn't get why they were
it
there.
seemed like, hey, look, I can't pay you guys to come all the way out here and shoot a scene, so why don't you like do something with like Zoom where you can just like say your lines and pretend like we're all having this synchronized conversation, even though you guys clearly did like a 3-minute call in over the phone on Skype or something like that.
And the worst part is when Madame Pinot and her daughter come in, he just shuts laptop, and then we never hear from them again.
Yep. I mean, like, as like a writing point, it's like the absolute bare minimum that you could have given us, like as like for like a homage or like some kind of like callback
Yeah.
to these earlier films, and then like again the motivation that he wants the money to like give to his friends because he feels like a loser and a failure for losing all their money, and like their belief in him didn't pan out. So I mean, like I said, bare minimum, it's there. So I got to give them credit for that, I guess. But it's very weak, and it could have had a better ending.
But didn't the guys mention that they didn't care of the money?
Yeah, I mean that's part of the reason I think that it doesn't matter too much that it didn't pan out too. But it was still kind of annoying, where it's like he doesn't even talk about his friends later on. Or like when he's fake breaking up with her because you're broke, he's like, "What am I going to do about my friends?" Like that would have been like a good like, "Oh yeah, that thing. Remember? You know,
Yeah.
3 lap dance scenes later."
Yeah, look at us trying to make the film better after the fact we've already seen it. Just goes to show you just what a great, amazing film this truly was. But we'll move on to the final thoughts here about this film, Trap Queen as the filthy casual. I'll start off with you. What is your overall thoughts of the movie? And if you can rate it, maybe out of like a system out of 5 stars, what would you give the movie?
So I would give it like maybe 2.5 stars, somewhere around there, because
Yeah.
my thing with it was like, it seemed like nobody really cared about putting together this movie. It just kind of seemed like it was just kind of, they were like, well, we have to get it out by this certain date, and they just whipped up a script and whipped up a kind of a weak plot line and just tied it all together. And it didn't really seem like anybody, like there was any passion behind it for anybody. That's why,
Yeah.
just like a premature ending, basically, like a false ending, sort of.
Yeah, like I said, that's my big thing. It's like the movie just ended, and there was really just no conclusion to anything at all there. Rick is temporarily dying, so I guess I'll go with Johnson here. What is your final thoughts on the movie, and what would you rate it?
Okay, so I first of all, I would like to preface this by saying I am a writer. I write books. People judge my work, and sometimes they hate it, and it makes me feel bad. There's a lot of works, blood, sweat, tears, that goes into making any project. But I agree with Trappy. There's not a lot of passion here, and it feels kind of like almost like a video essay from the daughter's perspective.
Yeah.
With some really, really weird hidden camera footage added in for the old folks. I also think it's like I said, I felt like it's a parody of a self-insert of a self-insert, and it's kind of like the end result too of feminism from a male perspective. It's not that women want men and physical pleasure, as we want the more than that. And this lady is coming at it from this very broken. I mean, even her name is Max, which I really hated. I really, really hate it when people give women manish names, I guess, like male names. It's like, look,
Yeah.
I understand that we live in a world where you have to pretend this thing matters, but like, can't you buck the system a few times? Go against the grain.
Well, that's the sad part. They do think that they're bucking the system by giving their name like Max in the first place.
Well, see, like that's the thing though, is I don't know. It's like they're not really bucking the system though. I mean, she's this absolute wreck of a divorcee. She has very little idea of what she's doing, and she's using this guy to try to get what she wants, which is some sense of clarity, self-respect, and a reason to believe in herself again, maybe even. And it's not going to last. There's nothing here that's been particularly grounding or self-revealing, or there's no moment of catharsis where she realizes that she's being this absolute like crazy lady.
A bridezilla to someone who's not even her husband.
Well, I mean, it's just really, really, it is like it's a very eloquent train wreck of sorts, and you're trying to dress it up and justify it and present it to your daughter as like some proof that you're worthy of getting what you want, even if it's not something that people would agree with. And so, yes, I would give it a 1.5 out of 5 or 3 out of 10 because the costumes were nice. It wasn't woke. I have to give it points for that. And like I said, I appreciated actually the whole Victor Zadie kind of. There was some good character moments with them, with the normal people.
The normies.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, like, I can't tell you how depressing it was to think that girl is going to grow up. I mean, like Sadie, she's going to grow up and think, like she has these problems. Like, what is she supposed to do? She has no role model. She has nobody other than I don't want to be a train wreck like my mom, and I don't want to be.
No, that girl's destined to be doing drugs at UK nightclubs for the next 15, 20 years of her life. Let's
Well,
just
I mean, at
be
this
honest.
point, she could run her own strip house, and it wouldn't be that surprising. And that's
Yeah.
really depressing.
I'm not sure if any of you guys have ever heard of or watched the show Skins, which is the UK show, not the
Yeah,
US
I've
one they
seen it
tried to
before.
do. Yeah, she's going to be one of those kids. Let's be very
I've never
honest.
heard of that, and I'm very, very glad I've never heard of it. Thanks to your reference.
Yeah. Yeah, Skins is a very interesting show, but if you were ever going to watch it, I would probably recommend, what was it, the 5th season of Skins? Yeah, the 5th
Yeah.
one, because that was the one with the new kids. Yeah, that's probably the best one.
I
out of
will
all
say,
of them.
for what it's worth, like there are women who do run into these problems that men are unfaithful to them, that
Yeah.
they have married terrible men, and my heart breaks for those women, because
Yeah.
life is hard enough on your own, and when you've built up a life and somebody decides to just cut it in half, that's completely unfair to them. I still don't think it's worth like, hooking up with your bartender and dragging him
Yeah.
across the world.
Or
and giving
maybe
him access.
perhaps don't look at a guy's financial status as the determining factor of whether you're going to have a functioning relationship. That can also be another problem as well.
Well, I mean, that's a good takeaway from it.
Or you might end up like Selma Hayek, just a depressed divorcee. So,
Well, I don't know. At some level too, isn't she's married next to the demonic children's drag magazine fan? So
oh yeah, the borderline
She-
child trafficker with satanic shit.
This movie might be her oh, this is what I do when this period of our life is.
Mhm. Or she'll have that momentization. It's like, are we the baddies?
Well, she wouldn't say it like that. She'd say it in Spanish.
Oh yeah. Well,
Malosos?
yeah, it doesn't sound nearly as cool when you say
Oh,
it. Though. So-
Oh,
go
one
ahead.
more thing before we move on. I just want to say I have to go right now because I got to get up early tomorrow. But I really liked being part of the show.
Yeah,
Hopefully
well,
next
we were
time-
really in the process of wrapping up anyway. But yeah, if you got something to promote here real quick or anything that you want to throw out here, go ahead and give it to us.
Not too much. I don't have too much going on right now. I'm just super busy because my personal life. But you can follow me on Twitter at Cinnamon Bunny. Just replace the I with a 1, and
Yeah.
you'll find me on there. And I really like being on the show, and I appreciate it. And I love the commentary from you guys talking about this movie. But so
It's
I want
nice
y'all to have a
meeting you.
good
I
night.
think this is the first time that you've managed to come through because I know you were on one other stream with me before, but we couldn't talk for some reason. It kept going in and out. So
Yeah, nice meeting you too.
Well, nice
Thank
meeting
you.
you too, Trappy.
Nice meeting you. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, good night.
hey,
Yeah, so that's it. But I just put the link in our Twitter on display, so you can go watch all of her hot takes over there. So hopefully we can get her back for some other shows down the line here too. But Rick, go ahead and let people try to make the case that somehow this movie was more embarrassing for you than Burroughs. I dare you to attempt to make that case.
Yeah, because I don't. Well, this one
it
didn't
had
have
more
any.
potential, Jacob. Okay. It
Yeah,
had
okay.
more
I thought you were
potential
saying
than
more
Rose.
pretentious. That was more pretentious.
No, I said potential. It had
I will.
potential to be better.
I will say that I'm fascinated that you found the costumes in a stripper movie interesting. So
Well, I meant Salma Hayek's costume. She wasn't really ever
she was
on stage. so.
Madame Pinot was not on stage. This is the worst movie I've seen all year. This, I mean,
You did watch House Party, right?
I did watch House Party, and I will struggle to see which one was actually worse. I think House Party might have the slight edge, but you never know. I might actually switch it up. This movie had no acting. It was just terrible. These people, Madame Pinot and Channing Tatum should really be embarrassed that they could sit there and look at the dailies and think that this is actually good. There's
Well,
no-
their paycheck is probably what they're looking at. In all
yeah,
fairness.
yeah. And again, I've never understood the appeal of Channing Tatum. The man has no talent. He can't act. I mean, all he can do is just move and take his clothes off. And granted, he is his generation's Fred Astaire, but I'm not convinced that he has anything to offer. Um, there's no story here. It's a ridiculous plot from the get go. This is really embarrassing on so many levels, and the stripping isn't even that interesting. Granted, I'm not the target audience, but I can't imagine that people would really be excited. This is for me. It just felt like a trailer for an upcoming Magic Mike's Last Dance live stage show. I can just picture it, like almost like like medieval times, but with strippers. That's all I could picture. This is really the worst movie I've seen. I you know I would watch the only movie that I would rather watch. I mean that I would think less of is Babylon. I think Babylon was
Well, it
worse.
also didn't come out this year though, so.
Yes, but I mean if I had to collapse it into two years,
Like a
it
6 month period.
yes. If I were to just think about 6 months or a year, this would if this had come out last year, I would have made it my second worst. I actually enjoyed Bros better because I did find a couple of things funny there. Here, I found nothing interesting. It was Salma Hayek's worst performance. I'm not that familiar with all of Channing Tatum's films, but I've never found a perform. Well, no, that's not true. 21 Jump Street I did think was good because he was kind of spoofing himself, but this was just terrible. And yes, I would rather watch Bros. I'm not sure why. I guess because I found Harvey Milk Duds funny and the Hall of bisexuals. But this is just for me the worst experience. Jacob, next year I'll be in Atlanta, hopefully. So I will look for you
Yeah.
and just yell and just no. You know what? I'll have Gabe yell at you for making me watch Magic Mike's Last Dance.
Mhm.
And one more point. Why is it that I got so trashed for not watching any Halloween movie until Halloween ends, but I could see the last movie of another trilogy without it being a big problem? I'm just curious.
Because there was like what 8 Halloween movies you missed up until the last one you just saw, and that series goes back to like the 1970s. Unlike this one that's only been around for like 10 years. So
Well, all right, fair enough, fair enough. But this is the worst. This is the worst movie I've seen. I think I would actually rather watch House Party because at least no, I mean that's terrible too. So it's like a hard choice. But this is the worst movie I've seen all year. This gets a zero. This gets a 0 out of 5. Uh, I would just tell people not even to bother. I mean,
I
just wait for the stage show or watch the clip or watch the highlight clips on YouTube where Channing Tatum takes his clothes off. I mean, that is his only discernible talent. Maybe I will grant him that he can take his clothes off quite well. Other than that, there's nothing here. Just nothing.
yeah, I will second that. Don't watch this. So.
well, I can't say that I hate it as much as you guys. There's at least 3 movies that I've seen so far this year that was far worse than this. 80 for Brady was pretty bad.
I was
House
gonna
Party.
say I
Go ahead.
I will say I was more agreeable to this than 80 for Brady. So
Yeah, 80 for Brady was definitely worse than this for me. House Party is still my number one worst film of the year. I even enjoyed this slightly more than I enjoyed Knock at the Cabin, only because of how dumb Knock at the Cabin was. But it's not a good film. But I will say this: probably the reason why I'm not as hard as this one as I probably would have been or should have been is that look, at the end of the day, this is just one of those films where I understand I'm not the target demographic for this movie. I kind of view it the same way I viewed Minions last year when we did that review. It's like, look, I can say that this movie is stupid, that it's terrible, but I'm clearly not the person that this movie's trying to appeal to. This movie is trying to appeal to that little midlife crisis, middle-aged woman who either is in a boring marriage with their husband or hasn't had a man in quite some time, so they want to, I guess, vicariously live through Selma Hayek's character, living through, who's vicariously living through somebody else throughout the film. That this is essentially what this film is is kind of pandering to. Like I said, there's a bunch of at least 50-year-old women watching this movie who seem to be enjoying themselves. So if you're in that target demographic, you're perhaps more susceptible to enjoying this film than we are. If you're not, I don't see what the draw is here for you, because I mean you're not really going to get anything you think that you're going to get here. So I would probably stick with my rating of about a 2 out of 5. I think that's probably the fairest thing that I can give to this one here. If it had a better ending, or maybe an ending entirely, I could have rated it a little higher, but the ending kind of turned me off, and a lot of the other things simply didn't work for me. So like I said, I'll give it a 2 out of 5, which is very, very fair coming from me. So let's just put that in perspective as well.
I
So
will say, for what it's worth, I think its marketing is on par with where it needs to be. It's for older women who have a history of going to the movies.
yeah,
I know a lot of older people who don't go to the movies at all because of problematic issues and stuff. And so yeah, the people that would show up to this, probably will show up to this.
No,
I don't mean to be distracted here for a minute, but this is going to count completely off topic here for just a second. Just 1 second, brace with me here. I'm watching an old episode of Supermarket Sweep right now, and there's this one woman who's on the panel right now, and she looks legitimately about 6'5", 6'6", and she's like towering over like these short little fat women, and like the visual here is just kind of nuts. I have to find it later on. I don't feel like looking about it now, but yeah, it's a very hilarious visual to me. But yeah, continue what you were saying about the film.
I was going to say that for Brady, at least I felt that the actresses gave it at least some effort. Here,
Yeah.
nobody was giving it an effort. But then again,
No.
Channing Tatum can't act, so his efforts are never going to work. And Madame Pinot's efforts were not there. I mean, she can't act. I don't know why she chose not to, other than just to, I guess, cash the check. I don't think she's that hard up for money.
Sometimes it's not about money. Sometimes it's just about the experience too. Like, there is a point in your career where you are at your best, and then after that point, you don't, you've given it your best. You don't have to give it your best anymore. So.
I'm not convinced. This is just an embarrassment. I'm really just speechless at how bad this movie was. And yes, I'm not the target audience either, but I actually liked Minions because again, I understood the target audience, and I think the target audience would enjoy it. And I got a kick out of How Do You Like It, just playing over and over for 2 days straight. For some reason, I found that funny. Here, I found nothing funny. I found nothing good. I found just unbelievably bad performances. Just a ridiculous story that just never made any sense. I wish they had made the movie with Victor's perspective. I would have loved to have followed him around as he tolerates these crazy people who are annoying, and he just endures them because he has no choice. But no, this is just terrible. This is no. Bros was actually better. I actually enjoyed Bros more.
Yeah, now you're just being stupid. Whatever. Do have a little quick news here, just real quick. We're gonna move over to our nice guys discussion, but I think I'm gonna save it for next week, because next week obviously we're gonna be doing Ant-Man 3, so there's gonna be a lot of colorful conversation regarding that movie, your next MCU soap opera film that comes out this week. We're gonna talk about that next Monday, and I'm not letting Rob off the hook. I know, like, he can go home, he can recover, feel better, all that good stuff, but no, we're still doing this nice guys thing next week. So we'll be back with that conversation in 1 week from now.
Jacob, real quick, I did see The Nice Guys, so I will be able to participate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I actually just saw it again today because I wanted it to be fresh in my mind. So yeah, we're not letting Roberto off the hook that easy. So
that's good. That'll encourage him to get better sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Do get better, Rob.
Or stay sick longer. It depends on which one you look.
I already gave you my my cure-alls for whatever ails you.
All right, and a quick little note here. Apparently, Puss in Boots 2 is still making money at the box office, so I think it's only 10 million.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and she's in that, and she was much better in that. But I mean, like, she was also an animated cat, so I can't complain.
yeah. So she's like the movie's like $10 million away from topping Black Adam for highest grossing films. So the note here says that if that happens, then every single film for 2022 would have been a sequel to another film as far as the top 10 movies go. So the top 20, I mean the top 10 of last year is like all jacked up because like Avatar is like a 2.2 billion right now, even though like I think 71% of that movie is all from outside of the US and outside of Canada as well, which means that even despite all the money that it's making, Top Gun is still the highest grossing domestic movie of last year. But then I was at like the Super Bowl party yesterday, and we were mentioning how basically all the movies are not even just sequels; they're like part threes and like part fours. It's like we have Guardians 3, Ant-Man 3, Fast 10, The Equalizer 3. You have there's like a part 4. Oh, it's Expendables 4. There's like a part 2 to like Aquaman, a part 2. Like everything's just a sea of sequels from movies that have happened in the past. Even the one that I'm looking forward to, Mission Impossible. That's Mission Impossible 8 at this point. So it's like, yeah, we've pretty much run the redundancy wheel of pretty much all cinema at this point.
Don't forget John Wick 4.
John Wick 4, that's another. Like I said, all of these are like I said, we're past like twos and threes. We're going into like fours, fives, and sixes now. That's how bad it's getting.
Well, I mean, in many ways, like we're at that point in culture where we need people to show us how to live.
Yeah,
We've become so disconnected from our own heritage and family in many aspects that we have no one to show us how you go through certain experiences. So, yep. Yep. Speaking of, my family's getting ready for Valentine's Day tomorrow, so I have to head out.
All right. Well, before we head out of here, just go ahead and give you a chance to promote what you got to promote, and then we'll roll on out of here.
Okay, what to promote? Oh, well, you know what? I will actually go ahead and promote my Kickstarter this time because, buy my books is just too easy. But
Yeah, right.
Also, I think Bounding into Comics is going to have an article about it soon. So I sent in some of the first couple pages for you guys to promote for me. So isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
But yeah, so my Kickstarter is kicking off in April. It's for a comic book. It's for Discord, Atlanta's guardian angel of music, as he fights down evil in the form of human traffickers. We talk about
So, Salma Hayek's husband.
Allegedly, maybe, I don't know, loosely connection. I don't know. It's I need some hard proof so I don't get sued for.
Yeah, right. Allegedly, the book might be about Salma Hayek's husband. Just putting that out there.
You see? Yeah. And support me if you want on coffee. I've been saying Ko-Fi for years, so apparently it's coffee. Where it's like a little tip jar. You get access to some free stuff, early stuff, worse stuff. You know.
It's just stuff, just a bunch of stuff.
Just a bunch of stuff. I walked out of the theater for The Force Awakens and I was like, oh my gosh, I outgrew Star Wars. And at that point, I knew I was going to have to make my own entertainment from now on because, look around. Is there anything worth applauding, really? So, no, at least if my stuff is, my stuff is all original. It's funny, it's snarky, it's sincere, it's lovely. And even if it's not, I don't know what the normie wants, at least it's there.
All right, then. Well, thanks for joining us for this special episode. We'll hopefully see you tomorrow. I'm going to hop this one over to our good buddy Rick. What you got coming up, Rick?
Bye, everybody.
Later.
Take care. What do I have? I have upcoming reviews of Magic Mike. I just published my big scary S word review about the joys of American socialism. I also I also will be hopefully reviewing a baseball themed movie in time for opening day. And so I've just got reviews that I've got to write and publish And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for. I will be reviewing the Nice Guys too, so I think I might hold off on that until we have a discussion, so that you guys don't know exactly where I land on your informal feud. But yeah, just publishing reviews, hopefully getting more things done, and potentially running for District 7.
Doing really
Yeah,
well.
I'm at 80. I'm at 80% that I will.
Well, best of luck to you. So yeah, maybe you want to be on this show just a little bit less, just in case somebody tries to hold it against you. But they'll have to find it first. If somebody finds this and makes a political ad against this movie, then I'll be very, very surprised. Let's just put it that way.
Yes,
So
Rick comes out against strippers.
yes, and Salma Hayek movies. So
Never know.
So obviously next Monday night we'll be doing our review of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. We'll talk about that film in detail next Monday night. If Rob is back healthy, we can also do the Nice Guys review there as well. So hold off for that one next Monday night. Tomorrow night on the Barroom Podcast, I haven't selected all of the topics we'll be talking about just yet, but I believe we will be talking about Velma. I believe we'll also be talking about Idris Elba's comments. There was a couple other things that I was looking at as well, but I haven't selected all of our issues yet. But episode 36 of the Bar Room will happen tomorrow night, so stay tuned for that one. And then I'm looking at finding a nice night and time to bring back movie night, because now that football season is over, really don't have an excuse not to do movie night on Twitch again. So I'm gonna have to figure out exact date and time that I want to do that. But I definitely want to start bringing back our weekly movie nights, because those are fun, and football season is over, so we can go ahead and start doing that as well. Everyone who joined us in the chat tonight, Alex versus Evil, shout out to you. Spencer, I know you're there. Mephisto just joined us here. He must have been just waking up here in the night. John Del Rose, who joined us earlier tonight. Duke, who's always here with us on the show. DK joined us here tonight. Doba Fett, we see you here. Cassie was here for a little bit. Top Dog, Amari Parker was here with us. I think I already said Alex versus Evil as well, and just want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Doba Fett got you. So yeah, everyone who joined us here tonight, thank you. We appreciate you guys for being here tonight on the show. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up and send everyone home. So go ahead and hit the spring yard. We'll see you guys tomorrow night on the Barroom Podcast. Until then, wave to the crowd. We're out of here. Bye-bye.